Hey guys and girls, King here back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about gatekeeping in TCGs. So it's been a topic that I've had written down on my list of ideas that I wanted to talk about for a while, but considering the Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings game came out, that was kind of the moment that I realised the pin dropped that I had to make this video. So I've noticed probably over the last couple of years more so where we've had a change with, obviously we had the lockdowns, we had the pandemic, more people were getting into collecting and card games in general. That was Magic the Gathering, it was Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Weiss Schwartz, Flesh and Blood as well. But one of the things I did notice was this movement of people that aren't happy with either new players or new collectors or new investors entering the market, or just people that have come from different card games that want to try something out. So with the Lord of the Rings card game, obviously it's a Magic the Gathering set, it's its own IP in general, but because it kind of fused both of them together, it brought both fan bases as one. The amount of people that I saw open up this card game, open up collector boxes, boosters, set boosters, things like that were messaging me about it. They were all from a wide range of card games. They might really be interested in Lord of the Rings, they might be interested in Magic the Gathering, or because of the One Ring, they just wanted to get involved in the hype and the chase, which is absolutely okay. You should never kind of look down on anybody that wants to collect something for a certain reason. If they're collecting, for true intentions, they want to get the One Ring or they just want to enjoy the card game, that's absolutely fine, And if somebody wants to buy hundreds of booster boxes to keep sealed as an investment, that's okay too. That's their money and that's their choice. But what I noticed on Discords and the Facebook groups was this slurry of people saying, oh, well, this set is rubbish. This set, it doesn't need to be even made. Why are these cards so expensive? When the One Ring comes out, everything's going to crash and all these people are going to lose so much money, sort of laughing at that. Now, obviously, I understand some of these are players that just didn't feel that this needs to be a thing. The price point from the get-go was very expensive on this set. They had to pay for the IP, and it's Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, and they're very greedy, as we know. I've mentioned it on the channel before. So if they could make as much money from one set as possible, they're absolutely going to do it. And of course, they're doing another kind of set to it later in the year, which, they're going to milk it. Of course they are. But what I noticed was a lot of people basically saying that it shouldn't have been made. People that were collecting, I'd see in the Facebook group saying, oh, another Lord of the Rings post being put, or oh, this person doesn't have a clue about Magic the Gathering. Now, I watched a lot of videos of openings early on, and there were a lot of channels that had never opened Magic the Gathering before, and they were opening this because, they were intrigued. I had a lot of people messaging me, asking me, what's this rarity? Is this worth anything? Is this card good? I don't mind answering those questions. If I have the time, I'll try to answer every question. I get a lot of those kind of questions for all TCGs, and that's absolutely okay. I'd never be upset with somebody because, they want to try something new. They want to try a different card game. This was what that set for me was about. It was that giant exposure that was going to bring all collectors and players, and investors to one TCG. There are people that, I know a lot of people that collect multiple card games, and I know people that collect just one card game. There's an awful lot of people I know that only collect Pokemon, and that's it. That's what they're interested in. That's what their nostalgia is. That's what they collect. Now, when you look at Pokemon, we had a lot of people enter in the game after 2020. Everything changed really. The pandemic changed collectibles in general, more so than people probably like to let on. It changed the way that people look at cards, the pricing. People will say, oh, but it's just a hobby. Or why can't it just be a hobby? And it can for a lot of people, but when you've got these monetary values on cards, it isn't ever just going to be a hobby, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. They've got cards in their binder that they'll say, oh, I'll never grade this, I'll never sell it. I know it's worth like £500 now, but the sentimental value means more. That's absolutely okay. You're okay to do that, and somebody else that might want to grade it, and sell on is absolutely okay. So I think, it's definitely something that I've seen more coming up more recently, and I know I'm guilty for it. I probably have said comments before in the past, especially about people that entered the Pokemon, for instance, after 2020. I enjoyed how cheap the pricing was in 2019 and 2018 and before that, but I also understand that I've sold a lot of cards since then that only went up because of the demand rose. So you have to kind of understand the bigger picture here. That the reason why we can get a lot of these sets, I'm pretty sure that if collectibles hadn't changed and the pandemic hadn't changed, there would be so few less people in the card game, in all card games in general. A lot of people have entered it because, they started spending more time in collecting, investing and playing because of the pandemic. A lot of people left, but a lot of people stayed. And that opened up more opportunities for so many different people. And it has made the landscape better. You just have to understand that it's very different. It's not the same as it was in 2019. In 2019, you could collect things. I was part of a couple of groups, but generally I kept my collecting pretty privately. Now, I don't so much post about what I'm buying or what I'm actually collecting in general. I'll post some bits and bobs every now and then that a cool pickup and stuff. But, for a couple of years, I was kind of posting everything that I was collecting. And you kind of get trapped into that sort of, that hype, that need to sort of want to post the newest thing. But with the gatekeeping in general, I think a lot of card games have kind of kept their core fan base, and it hasn't really affected them that much. I know the Lord of the Rings Decipher TCG, for instance, made back in the early 2000s. I've posted it on the channel before openings. I've talked about it on, Instagram and Discord and all my socials. I'm a collector of that. I love the cards. I collected it when I was a kid and I still collect it now. I've noticed a lot of people that have joined the Lord of the Rings trading card groups because they've started getting the Magic the Gathering one. They thought, oh, okay, there's other Lord of the Rings card games. Maybe I should collect some of these, and they want to buy the cards. They might want to grade them. And a lot of people seem to be very upset and angry with them. They'll make a post saying, I want to get this card, I want to buy it, and then they want to grade it, or they may just want to buy it in their collection. And they get a lot of backlash for it. I've seen it in Facebook groups, Dead CCGs, TCGs. If you're part of those groups, you're a G, because they are for card games that are dead. A lot of them are early 2000s, and I'm sure more card games will be added to it as the years go on. I joined it years ago because of Lord of the Rings, and I entered to join a couple of them more recently because of other card games that my friends collect. And I've noticed a lot of people over the last couple of years with the pandemic especially, people would join those groups to buy stuff, maybe because they thought they could make a bit of a profit, or they thought there was a gap in the market. They could maybe flip it or grade them. And again, there was a lot of backlash. People like things to say the same, and a lot of people generally are just collecting. They might post what things they're trying to buy, or maybe post some things to sell. But for the most part, a lot of people are just generally collecting privately, and they don't post about stuff that they're collecting. And they like to keep themselves. They don't want things to change. They want prices to be consistent. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it happens. You look at the Harry Potter card game. I remember buying boxes early 2020, late 2019. They were very cheap. And I sold them during the hype. They were very nice boxes, but the prices they got to, I couldn't afford to keep collecting, so I sold. The Lord of the Rings boxes now. There's boxes I paid £20, £30 for a couple of years ago from card games stores that didn't want them. They were at distro for years. Until about 2020, 2021, in America, you could still get them at distribution level. That had been 15 years on. And now boxes, some of them are in a couple of hundred, even more so. Some of them are in the thousands. That's the way that card games work. It moves, it changes. There'll be a spotlight on a certain thing in a card game and that'll go up. There might be a spotlight on a whole card game in general and that'll go up. But I don't think gatekeeping is very good at all. We know that it isn't great in anything. It happens across every hobby. But I've just noticed it started to happen a little bit more in TCGs. And I wasn't sure how I wanted to articulate this video. I might have rambled on a little bit longer than I probably planned to. But my point stands is that you should try to welcome anybody that enters the hobby. If people message me and ask me questions, I always try to answer them. I know there's a lot of people that I've posted Flesh and Blood now for 3 years on my socials. I'm really interested and I want other people to get interested in it as well. Whether they're going to play, they want to collect, or they want to invest. I've had people enter box breaks I've done. They've bought packs, singles and boxes because I've posted about it. Some decided to stay collecting, and some, do you know what? They said, this isn't for me. I'm not interested in the art. That's absolutely okay. But if anybody ever has a question for me, as somebody who posts regularly about Flesh and Blood, who's passionate about it, I have nothing to gain by telling people, no, you shouldn't collect Flesh and Blood, or why should you be able to enter the hobby? And I think a lot of it happens from projection. You know, there's a lot of people in card games that wish, specifically in Pokemon, I noticed, they wish they'd bought more early on. I'm guilty of it. You know, there's so many things that I wish I'd bought, but that's hindsight and that happens and that's the way it works. But they're projecting, you know, they feel guilty or they feel bad that they didn't buy these things, or maybe their budget isn't the same as somebody entering the hobby and going, do you know what, I want to get this card, I want to get all the ponchos, for instance. Someone enters the hobby and buys all the ponchos and he starts posting about it now, and he's like, well, I joined the hobby in 2023, I saw these cards were really popular, I wanted to get on them, and then people will start attacking them going, well, why should you be able to enter the hobby with X amount of money, buy all these cards when I've been collecting for 10 years and I can't afford them, or, you know, things like that. I've honestly seen it all, but I would say try to call people out on it, especially if you see people in the group chats and the Discords and the Facebooks and even the Instagrams and stuff like that. I've seen it plenty of times. I try to sort of not be like that. You know, I collect what I love at the end of the day, and if I'm talking about something and I'm posting about something, I want people to get involved in it. You know, I want people to comment. I want people to go, oh, well, what's that? What card game's that? Well, this is Flesh and Blood. You know, this is a new card game that I've been interested in. So that kind of happens a lot, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 12 to 18 months. As a lot of these card games, like for instance, One Piece, Sorcery, Grand Archive, they start to progress and grow. You know, Lorcana as well, for instance. Will people that got the D23 promos, for instance, will they start hating on people that are entering the hobby when the first set comes out, or the second set comes out? So those kind of things are, you know, it's interesting to see, to kind of take yourself out of the situation and assess it from all angles. But thank you all for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe as always, and have a great day.